Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Hopefully this is something that is of interest to you because I certainly find it fascinating. And I'm going to explore some part of the wide world of pens in this video. You see two rotating in front of you being held up by two happy crabs. And yes, it's two HongDian pens. Again, their designs just continue to surprise me about the branching off that they've done of their different models and giving us some very interesting pens to look at, write with, enjoy. And the green one is the M2 that I got today. And there's been a number of reviews on the M1, so, we'll look at it. But people seem to have discounted the M2. To me, it's a very, very interesting model with some similarities to the M1, but less than you would expect. It is a different pen, and that's what we're going to explore. So sit back, enjoy, and watch. Thank you for joining me as I explore the amazing, incredible, diverse, interesting wide world of pens. And yes, I had to use my Scorpion pen holder, which I acquired recently. It's a heavy bugger. Turntable's having a little bit of an effort with that. The pen is on the light side, and this Scorpion pen holder works well with smaller pens like the one you see in front of you, which is the HongDian M1. Would have been interesting to have in my HongDian Pen Maker of the Year video, but I didn't have it then. I have it now. And I got it in a purple color. Here's the listing. So we're going to explore this pen, show you all the little bits and pieces. A lot of engineering went into this design, which is really interesting for me. The M2 came in this cellophane sleeve with this inventory label. We'll give you the translation that Google did of the Chinese characters. I find it interesting. So the first thing you'll notice is it's a small pen, pocket size, but has a really great spring-loaded clip. It's an interesting design I've never seen before on any other pen, and the way it's put into that cap is very, very nice. A very good, unique clip design. Little smiley face there at the bottom, or some type of a design. On the back side, which HongDian has been doing for a while, you have M1, the model number, HongDian, and the nice little dove there with some type of vegetation in its beak. The cap comes off in about one turn. Very, very nice, because you want pocket pens to be quick to the draw and be able to write if you're out and about using them. The surface is a little slippery. I don't think it'll mind that bother you while you're writing, but it can slip out of your hands if you're not comfortable or if you're not being aware. So could you write with this unposted? Anything is possible, but certainly not pleasurable. But thankfully, the cap does post deep and secure, and it really adds to the balance of the pen. I like it posted. Not something I will say about many pens. So that's the pen. As you would think, it's a cartridge converter. So you unscrew the section. Nice rubber O-ring there, which I always think is a good idea. And we'll see a small HongDian branded converter. We will measure by weight how much ink it takes up when we do ink up the pen. But that's the bits and pieces. We'll explore it in a little bit more detail and compare it against some other pocket pens. Purple color certainly looks nice. So I have the M1 taken apart. Yes, I disassembled the converter. Easy to do. This metal collar unscrews. And I took out that little plastic ball, which to me is useless. And the other thing we can note is that this HongDian number 5, nice extra fine nib, in this nib assembly is a 3.4 millimeter diameter there, unlike some other pens, Jinhao, that have a different diameter. To me, the larger the opening, the better I like the pen design. So let's go into dark mode and look at the inside of the cap. So camera in night mode. So we'll bring in the trusty LED. I like the purple color. I think it's a good design. If you look inside, we'll see a nice plastic liner there in the cap. Expect it'll seal up very well. You can see how deep those threads are where the plastic cap starts. So that's the pen. Nice texture to the finish. And of course inside the barrel is just a classic piece of aluminum tubing. Yes, the pen is made of aluminum. So one of the reasons I really like HongDian Engineering is they come up with some interesting approaches. We have this small pocket pen, so they made a small converter. And yes, they still brand it. And yes, it is a small converter, especially when compared to the full-size converter that they normally use, but still it's branded. It unscrews, easy to take apart, lubricate, clean out, whatever you want. Kudos to HongDian for really thinking about all different aspects of their pens and making them much more enjoyable for us pen nerds to use. So one thing I did not expect, because the dimensions of these pens are pretty much the same, but the M2 posts a lot longer than the M1, maybe because of how the bullet nose and the curvature here allows the cap to post deeper. But as you can see here, this cap is actually deeper, compared to the threads. So we'll figure it out. But just to let you know, if you like a longer pen posted, the M2 is probably your choice. So just so you can see, the barrels are basically the same length, but the cap on the M2 is longer. So it posts a little bit higher, longer cap, henceforth a little bit different writing experience. I'm just amazed at the little changes that they do, and the timing between these two pens was pretty close. So were they designed and developed by two different groups with some common components? Was the M1 out a lot earlier than the M2, but we weren't aware of it here in the Western world? Like I said, two different pens from my view. So both of the caps have the same spring-loaded clip. Just seems to have the right amount of tension on it. The M1 has the engraving here, kind of a smiley face. If you turn it over, you see M1, the little dove there, and HongDian. If you look at the M2, the bottom of the cap doesn't have anything on it, but up here near the clip is HongDian M2. And also this finial is just very, very interesting. Not exactly certain. It looks like some type of bird, stylistic bird there, and there are doves and other types of birds seem to be popular with HongDian. So this top finial's not easy to photograph. You get reflections on that nice shiny dome. There, it seems to show it there pretty good, the elements that are underneath of that plug. Just a very interesting, different type of finial. Compared to the M1, boring. M2, woo, interesting. So one of the fun parts about a new pen with a new design like this is that clip can be opened up by pressing on the back. So it's a nice spring-loaded clip. And if you like doing this, which I don't find useful except for maybe putting it into a pen case with a very thick fabric in it, but it can be done. Kudos, nice design by HongDian. So here's some pocket pens we're going to compare to the M1. Here's a pen I bought on Amazon. It was okay. Again, anodized aluminum, very similar finish and feels the same. Here's those very popular alpha pens. Here's some smaller pens. Nice multicolored anodized some type of metal. And to me, this is the original Wong-Kai Mini, which I love, and it's that same ribbon pattern, which we're going to see in the Q2. And of course, Pen BBS came out with their version of a pocket pen, and they did some interesting design changes like this metal ring, which allows you to configure it in different ways and have a different balance. Of course, this is anodized aluminum, and this is cellulose acetate, which is a very, very nice tortoise color here. Here you have removable clips, kind of like your Kaweco. And here the clip is integrated into the cap. So like I said, I'm really impressed with HongDian's engineering in this pen here, giving you a very small pen with a converter. These two have converters too, but they made them longer than their emulating of the Kaweco Sport. And of course, these are eyedropper only. I like my pocket pens. This is just a very small sampling of the many that I have. HongDian has now some excellent number 5 nibs in steel. The extra fine is definitely a finer line than the medium nib. The medium is, and I'd say the extra fine is more like a fine, maybe a little bit finer. You know, extra fine is like 0.38, fine is 0.5, and this I'd say is like 0.6, and this is like 0.4. But obviously you can see the differences. And both of them, for the size of the nib, is fairly wet. The fine one is very wet. And obviously, the 54th Massachusetts Noodler's ink works very well in these pens. Great combo. So one thing interesting about watching other reviews is you learn things. So one of the things that I learned from watching another review of the M2, here's we're using the M1. That's no pressure. That's pressure. The nib will open up a little bit. Not bad. Not bad at all. Not something you're used to from a number 5 steel nib. So that was the extra fine in the M1, and this is the medium in the M2. And as we've seen before, quite a wider line. But if you put some pressure on it, it'll open up even more. As usual, the extra fine gives you more of a line variation between no pressure and pressure than the medium does, but this is still a pretty wide line. It's nice. I think we need to bring in the Q2 and look at the fine line from this Moonman nib, Mahjong. As you can see, it's much finer than the fine in the HongDian. If you put a little pressure on it, it doesn't open up as much, but it still opens up a little bit. A viewer talked about doing something to keep the nib from drying out, so I unscrewed the screw that holds this finial in place. You have to go in through the cap with a Phillips head screwdriver, took it apart, and then put a lot of silicone grease there to seal it up. And the nib has been staying wetter. Not perfect, but definitely better. Kudos to that viewer who made that suggestion. Now it's time for some editorial comment. As usual, yes, I like both of these pens. If I had to choose one, I would definitely choose the M2. The M1 stands on its own for what it is. Both great pocket pens, sturdy, well-made metal pens, but not heavy. One of the things that I came across in doing my research is that pricing on these seem to have dropped fairly well. And it's good to do your searching on whatever platform you look at. On eBay, I do a search, and then I do a sort on lowest cost plus shipping. And here's some examples of that. As you can see on the M2, there's a big variation between the lower cost sellers and the higher cost sellers, which are more in line with the price that I paid on the M1, which I bought over a month ago. So therefore, do your research, be a good educated consumer in your purchases, and you will get the best value for your hard-earned money. So again, if you like pocket pens, and yes, they are slightly slippery, so if that bothers you, stay away from these. But I find them good writers, and to me, they have a lot of attributes that work well as a pocket pen, and that new design clip is just really great. Very unique, and that's one of the things that I think pen makers in certain countries don't get credit for. They do have some interesting designs, and yes, there's only so much change you can make in a pen and still have it be functional. So I don't criticize them for what components may look like other components, but other reviewers seem to really fixate on that and let them be what they want to be, not me. Hopefully you can appreciate how really nice this medium nib writes. It lays down a very nice wet line. I'm just impressed, and it wrote first time. This is what my first writing from both of these pens looked like. It's not all the time when you just ink up a pen, put nib to paper, and it writes well, and it continues to write well throughout your use. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and look at two pens. This is a two-for video. I hope this video finds everyone safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens. And I want to thank all of you for watching. Hopefully you found it entertaining, enjoyable, educational, motivates you to start writing with the pens you have, or maybe consider adding some more pens, whether you need them or not. So with that, we've reached the end of this video, and we will say bye. Now, this is a good writer.